Alright, so everybody put down your tools. I'd like to introduce you to Steve. He's a colleague of mine. He works at Linear Technologies. He's worked there for quite some time. They make chips, and what you could easily argue the best chips.
I'd say the best.
Yeah. They make great chips. I don't know if anybody is using any right now, but...
My man Julio is here.
Is he? Okay, cool. So I'll let him talk about his career, but as always, please ask him questions or stop him if you have anything you're wondering.
Thank you, Dave, very much. Hi guys, how are you doing? I am very glad. It's good to be here and just to see young, fresh faces that want to do engineering. I was kind of complaining to Dave that one of the biggest challenges I see in engineering is that there's way too many people my age, 50 and old, so we're all turning gray together. And every time I sit around a table, where are the young people? And it's they're not there. So the fact that to see a room full of high school kids that are interested in engineering kind of bodes well for my future, which makes me happy. So thank you guys for coming here, and thank you for your interest in engineering, because I think, quite frankly, engineers and electrical engineers have done a lot to just change the world and make the world a better place. Come out with cool things, and we at Linear Tech, we like to help people and help engineers solve the world's problems and to make life better for all of us. So, it's a loaded question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Have any of you all ever heard of Linear Technology before today, except not coming to you?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. Okay. That's kind of how we like it. Linear Tech, we are a semiconductor company. We were founded, and actually I just kind of start with my introduction here. So just a little bit of the history of Linear Tech. So has Dave talked to you guys about analog and digital and the difference between those two forms of electronics? A little bit? No. So when you think digital, you think of things like Intel microprocessors and maybe FPGAs or microcontrollers, that sort of thing. Analog are sort of the parts that interface with the real world. So everything that you do is going to require power of some sort. You're going to need to amplify a signal of some sort. You're going to need to convert analog to digital in some fashion. That's where Linear Tech plays. We're sort of a niche player in semiconductors, and we like it that way because, believe it or not, there's a lot of profit there. And much as we like to help people and help engineers, we are very much a for-profit enterprise at Linear Tech. So, and I'll kind of explain the value that we provide and how we make money. Okay, anyway, just a quick overview. Linear Tech, we were founded in 1981, so way before all y'all people were born here. Yeah, my junior year in high school. Great. And again, we were founded to focus on analog. Any of you on a stock market at all? As a young kid? So Linear Tech went public in 1986, and we're on the NASDAQ, and we're in the NASDAQ 100, which is a big deal. So we're one of the top 100 stocks on the NASDAQ exchange in the country. We're also in the S&P 500, so when your parents are listening to all the business news and stuff, these things are a big deal for us because there's money involved. In 2005, we hit over $1 billion in sales. We kind of, we do about $1.4, $1.5 billion in sales in any given year. And this is based in 2011. We were 30 years, so we've got about 4,500 employees worldwide. So it's a big company. We've got operations in sales offices all over the United States, Europe, Asia. We have manufacturing facilities because semiconductors just don't happen out of the sky. You have to actually what we call fabricate them. And those are done in California and Washington, state of Washington. And then, because everything in life is a tax dodge, your kids will learn this as you get older, we have facilities in Malaysia to package for tax reasons. And we have test facilities in Singapore, again, for tax reasons. These are very tax-friendly countries. That's why we go there. Just a quick thing about Linear Tech. Our company is extremely stable. Average experience at Linear Tech is 20 years. This is our executive management team. The two guys that founded Linear Tech in 1981 are still there. I mean, that's 33 years, 34 years on, which is, to me, is remarkable. I've been at Linear Tech for 15 years, so I've actually found a career that's fun, that enables a kid from Michigan to kind of go go out and wreak havoc in the world and try to sell really cool electronic components. So this is just talking a little bit about markets. So you guys are working on some kind of interesting, I saw a lot of LED type of things, and you're working on things that are interested you. Your little solar application there was kind of cool. A lot of these types of things were focused on what we would call the consumer market. So a lot of electronics today, you think of your cell phones, your iPods, iPads, computers, TVs, etc. That part of the market is the consumer market, and we at Linear Tech have learned that is a really bloody, ugly market to play in. You know, it's fun to have your phones and stuff that you can play with, but the chips and the stuff that's inside of them have a lot of times become commodities, meaning that everybody and their brother does it. When everybody and their brother will do something, there's no money, well, there's very little money in it. And again, as I mentioned, Linear Tech, we like to help people, we like to provide great parts, we are very much a for-profit enterprise. So the total worldwide semiconductor market, I think it's kind of interesting, it's $300 billion worldwide is how much is bought in semiconductors worldwide. That's a lot. Digital, which is, as I mentioned, Xilinx, Intel, processors, FPGAs, that sort of thing makes up about 85% of the worldwide semiconductor market. Yes, sir?
Texas Instruments and Booth.
Yes, sir. So they make digital signal processors for, first thing they did was like speak and spell, which is like way before your time, where it will synthesize voice and so you feed it an input and it kicks back voice. That's sort of how they got their start. They also are doing processors for TVs, for projectors, things of that nature. But they also play in the analog world as well. So they make power converters, they make analog digital converters, op amps, analog type things that Linear Tech sells. So we would consider Texas Instruments kind of a hated competitor, but that is very good. Man, you guys got some key insights. That is outstanding. So, but yes, they are. So we have, so there's 15% of that, 300 million is left for the analog market. We don't want to play in all of it. We want to be, at Linear Tech, we want to provide value to our customers, which the way that I look at my customers at Linear Tech would be you, the engineers, Dave, the engineers. That's what we are trying to service, because we know you've got hard problems, you've got deadlines, you've got multiple projects you want to do, and we want to be there to help you, and I'll tell you how we do that in a second. So, again, we want to be first. We want to come up with valuable parts that you, as engineers, can use, and you can get to market faster, because quite frankly, when you're an engineer, time to market matters a lot, because if you are second, you're host. You're not going to make as much money on yourself. Real quick, what Linear Tech does, I was mentioning, we make power parts, so DC, have you touched on DC-DC converters at all, Dave, or just, no, just real simple. Every electronic component that you guys use needs power of some sort. So if you've got a source from power coming in from a battery or from the wall or from your computer with USB, oftentimes the parts that you guys are going to use, you're going to need to step down your voltages, make them a little bit smaller so they will actually work. We make parts that actually do that. So, which is sort of a like, what is that? What is that? How hard is that? Well, it turns out it is hard. There can be all sorts of little hidden gotchas. You guys are learning about the hidden gotchas of being engineers right now. Don't worry, they don't stop. They are always there for as you're in engineering. But we try to make sure that people get our help with power. We also are in op amps, signal conditioning, etc. This is just real quick. This is sort of the vagaries of talking about my career. You guys are like, we're engineers, we want to solve problems. That's cool, but quite frankly, profit, loss, money kind of drives everything that we do. This chart just kind of shows that life in sales and life in electronics, life in engineering, it's a roller coaster. You definitely are buffeted by the economic realities that happen in the world. So if all of a sudden China manufacturing has stopped, it's like, oh God, revenue is down. 2009, you guys may have been a little too young, but when There was the housing bubble that crashed. We felt it. It's you just to be aware, we're not totally immune from the things that can happen in the world. I always like this slide of linear tech because it just sort of tells what we focus on. Biggest part of what we sell are to what we call industrial markets. So a lot of what you guys as engineers will do, if you guys do decide to go on to be engineers, I would say, you think Apple, you think Google, you think Amazon. These are places where there's engineers, that there's cool engineers too. Truth is, there's not that many jobs at those places. I mean, there are, but the reality is a lot of you will probably end up working at a medical company, making medical electronics, or you might be working in an industrial company making flow meters, or oscilloscopes, or voltmeters, or factory automation. It's a crazy big opportunity to sell into to be an engineer. So at Linear Tech, we decided we wanted to focus on the industrial marketplace because that is where you can probably make a lot more money, and people will value your help more. Certainly, we also sell into transportation. That's kind of a growing market. So y'all all drive cars, right? Y'all take the trains to get here and stuff. The amount of electronics that have gone into cars has, I think, doubled or tripled in the last 10 years. Linear Tech, we kind of sell into it's funny. You always talk about buy American and so forth, and so you always want to buy GM, Chrysler, Ford. I was told that growing up. You guys, as kids, are probably, that's crazy talk. But when I was a kid, growing up in Michigan, that's what everybody did. As I've gotten older, I've discovered that the really innovative companies in automotive are the Japanese, Toyota, Honda, Germans, and believe it or not, Koreans. So Hyundai makes incredibly innovative cars. In fact, I drive one. And there's Linear Tech parts all over the car, all over that car. It's like my loyalties have become more to Linear Tech than to GM or Chrysler. Let's see. So this is just, I was talking about how linear can be valuable to you as an engineer. This is sort of where we differentiate ourselves. So in the life of a product, what you guys are designing, I mean, it actually has a life cycle. So it's conceived, the birds and bees happen, it's born, product is launched, it will have it'll go into mass production, and a product can last anywhere from 6 months, bless you, to there could be like medical parts or flow meters that or even defense electronic stuff that's around for 20 years, which is just insane when you think about it. Sometimes designed in 1994 still being built, yes. And what will happen is parts that you designed in as an engineer, all of a sudden they're like gone. Companies have said, I don't want to make it anymore, I'm not making it anymore, get rid of it. Well, that doesn't help you as a customer, like, I need to buy it. So Linear Tech, we're very cognizant of that. So let me just, how we kind of help you along all lines of things, because as an engineer, as you get going, it's kind of good to know that there's actually someone that will help you. I mean, you guys are lucky you got Dave, he really is one of the best engineers that's out there. So the fact that you guys got someone like that you can use brain you can pick, really is a nice thing. So this, to me, for Linear Tech, what we do, this is the money slide. And this is how we kind of earn our money, and this is how we make engineers happy and like us. So we really value supporting engineers as they're given a project. So whereas you guys are coming with a lot of interesting ideas on your own, I think, just looking around the room and listening, talking to you guys come up with some interesting stuff. Oftentimes you're sort of dictated when you work in industry, like, okay, this is what we want to build. You as an engineer, figure it out and build it. It's kind of a scary thing. So what do? Well, you've got to kind of figure out what all you need to do, and you got to start assembling your components and putting them together and going from there. One of the Linear Tech we really value and want to help our engineers as we get going. So I'm a sales guy, so I know enough about electronics to be dangerous, but I actually work in tandem with a technical guy, who we call an FAE, or Field Applications Engineer, who is really technical, and he can come around and he can come around, look at board, and he's the type of guy that come to you, Alec, and say, God, oh, I see, look at your code here, you might have he's that guy. He's very, very good. So in the world of hardware engineering, schematics are a big thing. So you've got to make sure that you lay out your parts correctly, that you pick your component values correctly. Our apps engineers are really good at looking at people's schematics and making sure they didn't choose the wrong value of capacitor or resistor, or they didn't put an LED in wrong, or your battery voltage is messed up, or whatever. They can kind of look it over and make sure give it a sanity check. Then you want, oftentimes you as an engineer want to test your circuits. One of the things that we do at Linear Tech, I think better than anybody, is we give out demo boards, which are essentially built up. So I see everybody's got breadboards here, right? And you all are putting your breadboards together. What we do is we will give you a finished green board breadboard here. It's all laid out correctly. Component values are selected for you. Your BOM, your bill of materials, is already done. You just hook it up to your scope and test it and see how this will work in your system. Those demo boards, I have given out, for 15 years, I've probably given out 20,000 of those over the course of that time. I mean, we kind of give them out like candy, but we want people to be able to use our parts really well. Our apps engineers are also really, really good at debugging. So I was talking to my main man, Alex here, who's just having a little challenge with his Arduino. So you're in the debug process, which is painful. We were just dealing, that happens daily in the real world. Our apps engineer was just out yesterday helping with a guy that was, we call it stuck in the mud, just like you were there. And spent probably an afternoon with the guy. But at the end, we were able to kind of debug, kind of poke around with the scope, and we figured out what was going on. For big customers, that's an invaluable service that we can provide. And that's actually one of the most gratifying parts of the job, that you can help people finish their work faster, and they can do a really good job, and it makes me happy. Have you started LT Spice yet?
Has anybody done it? Has anybody captured their schematic in LT Spice? Not yet. They haven't gotten to the documentation phase yet.
No problem. We can also help with this last thing, simulation. We can help simulate your circuit as well. So you can build your circuit in your computer, and you can look at the characteristics and how it works, all with LT Spice. We also like to help with getting time to market. So again, I mentioned one of the biggest things you have to do as a engineer is, like, you're under a deadline, so you've got to deliver a product, and your manager's like, "Why aren't you doing it? Why isn't it done? I need it done." Like, the specs changed, and well, I don't care. I need it now. It's like, okay, so you're freaked out. It's like, because they're under your gun. It's like, you got a mortgage, you got kids to feed, you don't want to like get fired, so like, okay, deliver the bacon. So oftentimes, we have some products, some innovative products that we at Linear Tech have done that will enable an engineer to get to market faster. What we have done is, I was mentioning power conversion. To your left is a typical power converted board. So you've got a switching regulator on it, you've got a bunch of capacitors, resistors, diodes, FETs, LEDs, just all sorts of stuff to make to convert like a 12 volts to a 5 volts or a 5 volts to a 3 volts. There's a lot that goes into it, but it takes time to do. We've essentially encapsulated that into a little IC that's 15 by 15 millimeters that the engineer can just say, it's on my board, it's done, I can move on to the next problem, so that the guy that's screaming at me, "Why is it done? Why is it done?" can get away from it. It's a nice thing. This is sort of another thing. Again, I hate to kind of keep going back, not to sound like we're money grubbers, but we are a for-profit enterprise. We want you as an engineer to feel value that you're using us. So oftentimes we do that by saying, okay, our part may be a little bit more expensive than competitors, because we can save you on design time, we can save you on integrating more parts, we can save you on using cheaper external components that, in this case, $1.40 you paid us, versus $1.25 you paid the TI for the equivalent part. It's like, well, why would you use Linear Tech? It's like, well, Linear Tech, I don't have to add a inductor or FAT cap. We don't have to insert it on a board. So actually, the $1.40 actually saves us. And when you add it all together, it's what we call solution cost. It's like you can realize that by providing value, you can actually make more money for yourselves and provide value for people. I always thought when I was your age that, man, profit not as bad. You should give stuff away. I don't know why I thought that. I had a little Marxist in me or something. But I realized, we all got to eat, man. So let's figure out what we can do to, have a win-win for everybody. Life's better. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting slide, but do you guys care about like real-world examples of like how engineering can doing it well can impact, or doing it poorly doesn't? The reason why I ask is a lot of people in engineering will try to like nickel and dime you. You'll have purchasing people who will try to say, oh, you got to use a cheaper component, you've got to use a less, you've got, cost. We have had problems, we've run into this where our competitors will not, they're cheaper, but all of a sudden when market conditions are bad, they stop making parts. So they go to sell higher dollar parts, and all of a sudden this guy that needs a part to build his cell phone tower or his widget can't get it. And you're like, but I need it. It's like, well, too bad, it's on allocation, you can't get it. And these problems like that, when you expedite problems, this was interesting, in 2010, we spent 150 million euros last year in expedited delivery to our customers because we couldn't get parts. We will lose $40 million in revenue from component shortages. We will need to issue a profits warning since we're a public company. For you stock guys there, that's death, man. Your stock takes a hit because, I hate to say this is another thing that engineers can do, is like stock options. They're not a bad thing. And you can, there's a lot of fun things that you can do in life with stock options. But if your stock takes a hit, it doesn't help you. We had to pay a huge penalty for missing committed delivery, and we may lose future business. This is customers that said this to us at Linear Tech. One of the things that Linear Tech tries to do, and we do this, no one else in the industry does this. And I know I apologize if I'm going over your heads a little bit, but I'm kind of passionate about this because I wish, I wish the world ran like this, but thankfully or unthankfully it doesn't. We are built so we can support $2 billion in sales. And we control, unlike a lot of our competitors, we control all of our manufacturing ourselves. Have you guys heard the term outsourcing?
Yeah.
So the whole world is going to outsourcing. I mean, we do it a little bit too, but I mean, many of our competitors, they don't control any of their manufacturing at all. So they're at the whims of, a lot of the stuff is done in Taiwan. So all of a sudden, when Taiwan Semiconductor is building parts, you're at the whims of the Taiwan power grid, you're at the whims of China and Taiwan saber rattling, you're at the whims of hurricanes and floods and things like this. And all of a sudden you can't get parts because you don't control your own destiny because Taiwan Semiconductor does. Linear Tech, we actually are unusual in that we have our own wafer fabs, which are kind of cool to see. We've got one in California and one in Washington State. As I mentioned, we do our packaging in Malaysia and final test in Singapore. To build a semiconductor, it actually takes, and I mentioned it doesn't just happen, snap your fingers and it's done. It actually takes 16 weeks. I mean, there's a whole chemical process that has to happen to make this happen. We try to mitigate that for you engineers by storing a lot of our stuff in what we call die bank. So the hardest part of building a semiconductor is in the first 10 weeks. You have to do chemical etching, you have to etch and scratch and store, and it's an extremely labor-intensive process when you're building a semiconductor. If you can get rid of most of that, all of a sudden, if you can just store things what we call die bank, that way when a customer like you, the engineers, like I designed one of your parts, I need it now, we can actually pull parts, the die from die bank and have it built within 4 weeks, which many people like, I try to tell that to my parents and they're like, yeah, so I'm like, you understand, no one else does that. And it's like, it's what separates Linear Tech from the rest of the world. So we try to make sure that we split our fabs and stuff. Let's see. Actually, this is kind of interesting too. Do you guys remember when the Prius was having problems a couple of years ago. There were unintended accelerations of Priuses and things like that. And the state of California went nuts trying to sue Toyota because of these unintended accelerations. Turns out what mostly caused it, well, there were two things. There were old people trying to scam the system, or old people that were hitting the brake instead of the accelerator, or vice versa. But the biggest one was they had crappy floor mats inside of a Prius. And Toyota had, you know, they always said that we have the best quality, but while they went cheap on floor mats, the pedal got stuck. So they had to recall 4 million Priuses to take out a floor mat that was bad, because it would get stuck. Using bad quality stuff, it cost Toyota billions of dollars. $5 billion. And they took a huge hit on market share. This little slide here shows that from the time when they had the recall to afterwards, they lost 5% market share, which in the automotive industry is huge, all because they used a crappy floor mat. If you can, kind of the point here is, if you can try to use quality parts, like Linear Tech, we can kind of help mitigate this so that we're not part of your problem, your quality problems. Yeah. On end of life, this is, I was mentioning, so a lot of times when you guys design something, it's going to be around for 20 years, and all of a sudden you can't get parts. I mean, the purchasing person or a marketing person is going to come to you and say, why can't I get parts? What did you do? What did you design that in? They said it would be around. Linear Tech, we hear that. If you're using our stuff, we've got, I think, 28,000 different parts that we make. We know that you guys, it's a little bit of a risk for you to design stuff into Linear Tech, so we try to mitigate that risk. Essentially, what we have is a state of non-obsolescence policy. We don't get rid of stuff, and that's kind of a powerful thing that you can sell and get people to use Linear Tech stuff. We're not going to screw you. We're not going to get rid of parts at the end of the line. I kind of like this. So DigiKey, y'all use DigiKey yet? Excellent. DigiKey is one of our distributors. You can still buy the very first part that Linear Tech made, the LT1001. You can still buy it today at DigiKey, which is like 33 years later. I think that's a powerful message that we don't obsolete parts. If people are buying it, we'll still sell it to you, even 33 years on. And I don't know, I like this. Innovation drives growth. With that, that's it. So I didn't tell a little bit about my job. This is more like what Linear Tech does. But because Linear Tech just so has its act together, and it's just, we try not to do stupid stuff. Everything happens, but we try to be upfront with customers. We try to help engineers. We try to solve hard problems. And you kind of build rapport and relationship with customers. That is such a fun part of the job that I do. I mean, I get to wake up every morning and I can set my own schedule in sales, which is awesome. Because, okay, I'm not the best early, I'm almost 50 years old. I still don't wake up well in the morning. I mean, I'm like you guys, man, as teenagers, like, oh, sleep until 10, that'd be great. I can't do that anymore, but, I don't have to be up at the crack of dawn. I like to, you said you like to work out still? I still like to do that, and I still make sure I get up and do my workout in the morning. Sales, you can set your own schedule, which is awesome. So, most often, what's kind of cool about engineers don't, Dave, you may be an exception to this, but engineers don't like to start to see you until like 9:30, maybe 9. 8 o'clock meeting for an engineer is crazy tough. And that's, I think, almost universal, like, if they have to, but they don't really want to. So usually you can start to see people around 9:30. I'll try to see 5 different people a day. I get to drive around and, again, we'll solve hard problems. We like to ask you what you're trying to solve, and we can try to offer you a solution instead of like trying to be cheese balls and just throw silly ideas out at you. Get to go to lunch every day, man. The expense account, God love the expense account. You can draw and the day just flies by at my job. It is just so much fun. You're constantly married to the schedule, which is why I was kind of mad. I was a little late here, but it drives me nuts that you can't park in these. Every community college, every college I've ever been to is like this. Like, there's nowhere to park. It's like, well, if I was faculty, it'd be great, but it's like, you guys are nickel and diming me to death, and I can't park anywhere. Just nuts, but that's a small thing. But it's just, it's a fun job. I was talking to a young lady back there. It's like, man, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I mean, I've been a linear tech for over 15 years. I still don't feel like I'm working. It's awesome. My wife gets so pissed at me because I was just like, man, you get to go to lunch and you can wake up and you can work out, and you can do this, and they pay you all that. It's like, God, it doesn't even look like you're working. I'm like, I know. It's fun. Every day is fun. Solving problems and helping. It's just the greatest job I've ever had. You work for incredibly smart people, and maybe how long have you guys been in this class for? 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Have y'all got to know each other? Did you guys know each other before you came here? No? Have you gotten to become like pals at all, or colleagues or comrades at all? No.
Just kidding.
The reason why, because that to me, that's one of the best things about engineering. Engineers typically are shy creatures to begin with, but once they get to know people, they're among some of the smartest people you will ever talk to, and you can just pick each other's brains. And when you're around, like linear tech, we have got some of the smartest people in the electronics industry in the world that work for us. And when you're around these people and you can pick their brains, you can learn stuff. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm just like basking in your knowledge, and it's just kind of makes you a better person, and it's really fun to just, listen. When the founders of Linear Tech, I've sat with them on numerous occasions. When they tell you the stories about how they founded the company, it's awe-inspiring, and how I kind of wish the world ran like Linear Tech. So let me just, all right, I have to do a commercial why Linear Tech is so awesome. There are, there's all these studies about, the best place in the world to work for, the best company in the world to work for. You see these things, Forbes runs these things. Everybody thinks kind of Google is sort of the cat's meow right now, and they make a lot of money, or perhaps Apple. I would match Linear Tech with any of that. We do some amazing things. So inside of our factory, we don't really go for ostentatious displays of so we don't have art on the wall or statues, we're very low-key, sedated. If you walk into the CEO of Linear Tech's office, and the guy who makes a fortune, his office looks like anybody else's office. It's just a little bit bigger, but it's nothing flashy. There's no bust to himself on the wall. There's no, pictures of his stock options or his Lamborghini or any of that. It's all understated, but they pay you really, really well. So we want to make sure that every expense that we spend is actually needed before we do it, which I can't tell you how great that feels, because it's like, if you have an expectation in your life, okay, if the company wants to watch the bottom line, so I gotta watch the bottom line, but how they incentivize you to watch the bottom line is that every 6 months of Linear Tech, this is unusual, I think any company in the world, we have profit sharing, which is, so think about what you made prior 6 months. You will get a check based on a percentage of what you made that prior 6 months, all based on the profitability of the company. So if you're actually doing things to help make the company more profitable by controlling costs or selling more, you're gonna get it back. And it's like, oh my God, what a concept. It's just like, it is a big check you get. It's like, man, I can go do all sorts of cool things with this. They do, I was just talking to David, one of the other things that Linear does that's great. Anybody ever heard, all right, you guys have your kids, so you get summer vacations off, right? It's the best, right? Getting summer vacation, yes?
Yes.
Word of advice, enjoy it while you can. Because as you get older, summer vacations go, and it's like, man, that's the one thing I miss about being here. Well, many things that I miss about being here. One is summer vacation was great. At work, you don't get it. However, at Linear Tech, you do. Every 5 years, you get an 8-week sabbatical. So it's 8 weeks off with pay to do whatever, literally whatever you want. You can see the world, which I'm going to do here in about, you can hang out with your kid, which I'll do that too. It's just 8 weeks to recharge your batteries. I mean, that is unheard of in not just in the electronics industry, anywhere. And they do that every 5 years because they really value the employees. That slide I showed about the average tenure of our executive staff being at Linear Tech 20 years, it's no joke. You become a lifer. I mean, we have, the culture of Linear Tech it fits well with me. I mean, it's kind of a libertarian leaning company, and I like that. And it's, you know, I've kind of managed to watch my P's and Q's here, but if you knew me well enough and you got me outside of school, I like to let the expletives fly, and I sort of like speak without a filter, which is a detriment, but Linear Tech is filled with people like that, and it's kind of invigorating to be around that, I dropped F-bombs with the guy that founded the company, and it's like just back and forth, it's just like, wow, this is just, I'm talking to this guy who's a billionaire, and we're just back and forth, it's like, and he knows me, and it's like, I'm like learning from him, it's just like, it's a wonderful place to work, it's a wonderful place to be, and I literally have fun every flipping day, and helping people doing cool stuff like I almost said cool stuff like you guys do. Oh yes sir, I'm sorry. I think you look like you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Or you don't, okay, I've done that too. So just, hey man, I'm just casually got my arm up. Don't mind me. So with that, that's
I have a question.
You do, who has
Sorry, I
that?
just thought that you were.
Yep, I have a question.
What kind of, do you offer any kinds of internships then for like after high school?
Man, you're hitting on a sore spot because I want to. Yes, we do, kind of. So I'm actually. This is sort of a little pet peeve I have, or a pet project I like to. I mean, what Dave is doing for you guys to me is really awesome. This is something I've kind of been trying to talk to our engineering, our higher ups in Linear Tech. I would love to have more things that we could do to offer, to help kids out in engineering schools or whatever, and have a mentor program or give demo boards or give parts, samples away to people to help. I'd like to do more of that. We do have some form of internship program. It's typically more for juniors and seniors. And where do you live?
Just down.
I'm sorry?
In like Denver area.
Okay. We have a design center in Colorado Springs. So they, where you guys are probably working would be like as designers. So I think they get their interns out of CU and for here. But once you're in school in junior senior year of college, yeah, they do have the design centers do have some sort of internship program. I guess I should have mentioned that. So Linear Tech, we're based in Milpitas, California. So that's in the heart of the Bay Area. So I lived there for 12 years, and I semi-affectionately called it Man Jose, because no offense to you ladies here, it was about 62% dudes there and about 38% ladies. So it would be rare to see ladies as engineers. So the fact that we see ladies here is awesome. And we like getting ladies interested in engineering because I think y'all bring a different perspective and you act as a soothing influence to us guys to kind of keep things good and make cool stuff too. So it's actually very nice to see. But a lot of people don't want to live in Man Jose because it's incredibly expensive to live there. Cost of living, the traffic, the salary that you make, it just kind of all goes to your house. So at Linear Tech, we recognize that a lot of people don't want to move to San Jose. So we have actually put a lot of satellite design centers all over the world. So if we find a talented group of engineers, like let's say in Colorado Springs, there were a whole bunch of guys that used to work with Ford Motor down there. And Ford closed their electronics shop in 1995. So these guys collectively shopped themselves to TI, Maxim, us, National Semiconductor, and said, we want to be a remote design center for you and build stuff for you. Linear Tech said, that sounds like a good idea, and we actually said, okay, set up shop in Colorado Springs, to the point now, we have, I think it's the second biggest design location for engineers in the world at Linear Tech. We have one in Boston, Colorado Springs, Burlington, Vermont, New Hampshire, Boston, Munich, China, one or the other. Santa Barbara, Grass Valley, Phoenix, and Dallas. So that wherever we find good engineers, we'll build a design center. And that's kind of nice, so you don't actually have to like move to San Jose, and you can if you want, but I left who wants to live there. It's better. Colorado's the best, man. Y'all live in a great place. Your parents are selected well when they decide to move here. Other questions?
All right. Thanks so much, Steve.
Thank you guys for coming to this and listening. Appreciate it.